Awesome. Good morning. Good morning. My name is Joe Martinez. This is our Thursday morning production call. Man, we got a good one lined up for y'all today. A couple of things that I love to talk about. This is an hour-long call, and I want to make sure y'all get the most that you can out of it. Best practices, right, is make sure you're sitting down somewhere where you can take notes. Have a pen and paper out. This is an hour long of information. We're going to go over some numbers. You are not going to remember them in an hour, right? So make sure you write them down. And then the biggest thing is we're going to go over a bunch of stuff. The purpose of this call is not for you to completely change the way you run appointments or the way you operate. The best practice is take 2 to 3 things that you heard and, hey, this will help me, right? Go help more families, and then just implement those into your daily routine. And then one of the biggest asks is we are a big community in the Cook hierarchy, and we do a great job of helping each other. So if anything you heard today helped you help a family, y'all can post that on band so that other agents can see it. It really, really does help, right? Because if somebody posted, hey, Cassidy, I did this, and right, I was able to help another family because I focused on this from the call. It allows another person, right, to see that and go do that themselves. So that's my humble ask, and thank y'all for doing it because we do great at that. And we're going to get this started. Um, I was just thinking, we've gotten a lot of phone calls from agents on production this week, and I always just love to talk about um, everybody winning, right? I think it's so easy to get focused on hey, I haven't written an app this week. I haven't been able to do this. I haven't been able to do that, right? This is coming up. This is coming up. And guess what? Something's always coming up. And it's so easy to focus on that. So just from talking to agents these past couple of weeks, I just want to remind everyone, in case you didn't know, we were at conference, right, 3 weeks ago. And it is very, very common when you're out a week, it takes 2 to 3 weeks to revamp your funnel that you started, right? So I know a lot of us come out really hot out of conference and like, this is the week, right? I'm gonna go write 10K this week. And you're like, well, I didn't. Just realize the numbers are the numbers. You can't outrun them, right? And it literally takes 2 weeks to, if you do the proper activity, to revamp, right, your production. So if you haven't written the week you did last week, or you didn't write what you wanted, it's absolutely normal. Nobody said you would. You just have to continue to put in the activity, right? Because it's week 2 and 3 where a really big funnel, right, which is your activity and leads, start to build up. And it takes 2 to 3 weeks, right, to get the no-shows, the people to tell you to think about it, the people that haven't picked up the phone, but you've dialed them and now they're seeing your phone number, right? So it does take 2 to 3 weeks at least of proper activity to get that ramp up. But I was on a Jim Larson call yesterday, and we were just talking about the opportunity here of production and what's possible. And I just wanted to share that today, right? Of what y'all should be putting in front of y'all, what's actually possible, what kind of income is possible. We have a ton of stories that we're going to share today too of folks actually doing it, right? Because I love to talk results, and I love to show like, hey, this is an example, and this is what it took, right? And the crazy part is it's not magic, right, Amber? Like it's just putting in the activity and following your numbers. Um, so I want to talk about a 20K deposit month. Okay, I want everybody to write that down. $20,000 in deposits. In case you don't know, I don't care what level you are at. If you're a brand new agent, this is your first week out. In April, every single one of you have the opportunity to deposit 20,000 minimum into your bank account. That's in deposits. And there's no one holding you back other than yourself. And we're going to talk about today about some of the things that hold us back, at least in our head, or excuses we tell ourselves, right? Of, hey, this is why I couldn't do this. Because I love to remind everyone and myself all the time of the opportunity we have here. Like, just a story, right? Like if y'all have me on social media, right? Like I got engaged last year. This past weekend, we were looking at, right, where we're going to get married, venue, and all kinds of stuff. And we're racking up some numbers, and it's going to be crazy expensive. But the opportunity here allows me not to be scared of that. And I want to remind all of y'all, because like I'm thinking, in case y'all don't know who Kristen is, right? She helps run our organization, and right, she's really good at helping me set goals and putting things together. Of, hey, look, this is what you can do. I know you can do it. I've seen those numbers, and I'm looking at this, and I'm like, you know what? We can go have a $50,000-$60,000 wedding, and I can have it paid by summer. I want y'all to think about that. I can go have it paid on my own PIN. I'm not even looking at what my agency would deposit. I know I can go have $50,000 to $60,000 paid on my own PIN. And I want y'all to grasp that concept, because I don't do anything special. If you ever get coached by me, you're gonna know very well. I just usually outwork you. And that's what I was looking for here at Symmetry when I looked at this opportunity. Because for me, this right here, does everyone know what this is? Raise a hand, or somebody type in the chat what this is. We're gonna wait. Somebody type
It's
in the
the
chat.
promotional guideline.
It's the promotional guideline. This was freedom for me, because nobody had control of my next raise or my deposits, because that's what I saw. I saw deposits, because they said, for me, the dream was uncapped income. And they said, this is how you get paid. And I'm like, wait a minute, there's not a name here, right? There's not Chris Cook, Mark Newbauer, right? Like, they don't have to approve, or I don't have to do a self eval. They're like, no, you do this, and then you get this. And I'm like, okay. And I want y'all to really grasp that concept. We have an opportunity here of uncapped income, and you are the only cap. I promise you, you are the only cap. And I'm going to go over a whole bunch of stuff that have capped me in my career here. And I'm sure they're going to be some of the ones that have capped y'all, right? But I want y'all to really now. I hope y'all wrote down 20K in deposit. Now I want you to circle it. So circle 20K in deposits, because that is 100% possible. I am not making up a number that maybe that, hey, that's a goal in a year from now. Nope. Everyone can go do that literally in you can start tomorrow, right? I love the Nicole posted like, hey, from this date to this date in 30 days, I'm going to deposit 20 grand. And that's where this idea and concept really came from, because I don't know if Nicole's on here. And everyone that I've talked to this week have actually brought her name up. And they're like, man, we reached out to Nicole because we're like, what clicked for her? Like, what was it? I'm like, y'all really want to know what I told her? Because I tell this to every top producer I've ever helped get to the top. And that's like, hey, you should probably think about quitting. And I want y'all to really think about that, because when Danny Young said this and Chris Cook told me this, I grabbed this concept, and I really believe it. If you're broke here, it's like starving in a grocery store, because there's food all around you, but you're just like, oh, I don't know if I should grab that one up there, or hey, I don't, let me just walk down the next aisle. And you're just making all these excuses out of in your own head, and not grabbing what's right in front of you, because you're chasing something else. And so today, when we talk about right things that are blocking your mind, a lot of it's going to be allowing yourself to have the permission to make this kind of income, write this kind of business, generate the income this way, because I think that's one of our biggest blockage. And that's what it was for me. For me, one of the biggest things was I was looking for white collar work, right? Like, I was used to making money with my hands, Kevin, right? Like, I had to go physically work in a restaurant. We were washing cars. James, that was a dumb idea. We were making donuts, right? Like, I was connected to my income, right? Like, now here was the cool part. If I did more, I made more, but then there was only so many hours in the day, right? Like, yeah, I was able to make about $1,000 in a day, but man, that was like 20 hours of work. And here, 15 to 30 minutes, you can make $1,000, $2,000, $10,000 in a policy. For me, that was like, holy cow, that's white collar money. And that's what I was looking for, because everything else was tied to me so much. And here I was looking for an industry that had big money, that I can go make an income sitting at a desk, right? And back then I was driving. I don't even know how we hired people back then, Amber. Like, hey, don't you want to drive 4 hours somewhere and maybe sit with somebody? Like here, you get to literally jump on Zoom or over the phone, help a family, and make that kind of money.
I can promise you, Joe, it would not have been me. You
It's
told
probably
me
why I didn't have anyone in the first 3 years.
Anytime I'll talk about that, I immediately think of like the early 90s. I'm like, how
I
5 years?
walked around with a briefcase. I used to shop for briefcases. Like this one's cool. I'm gonna put my laptop in this one. Like I don't
You
know.
told me I had to sit at a stranger's table. I'd be like, all right, that's not for me. Next.
And right, just understanding that. Again, I'm going to give you all some very practical tools of how to make this kind of income. What's stopping you? You need to get out of your own way. But I just love strawberry milking 20K, right? Because I'm gonna talk a little bit about Nicole. She was like, hey, I know I can do this, and it's insane. So today I think marks the 30-day mark for her thing. And as of yesterday, I think she was at a little under or 16,000 in deposits. $16,000 in deposits. I want y'all to grasp that. She was at $16,000 in deposits. It's absolutely insane. And then she writes another app today for like another 3 grand, right? Like, and that's I so when I asked the question, I'm like, is that money that already hit? That's money that already hit the bank. Because if you really calculate all her pay that she made in this commission, she's over 20,000, right? Because of back end pay. She made over $20,000 in 30 days. And this is a mom of 8, right? I think it's 8 kids, 2 sets of twins. She homeschools. Like, it is insane what she was able to do this past 30 days. And we're going to go over again just a lot of stuff in our heads, because it sounds great, but let me tell you, me and her had a whole bunch of conversations, and it was very up or down, and I don't know if this is going to happen, and then all of a sudden it happens, and then we fall behind, then we catch back up. But that's the commission world. That's the owning your own business world, and you just have to understand that that's just the way it works. And so I love to remind folks of how it really works on the other side, because I think we so often forget, because I didn't get a deposit today, of what's on the other side where you came from. So anywhere you worked, if you were either once a month salary or every 2 weeks, you had to work 14 days before you got a deposit. You had to work 8 hour to 12-hour shifts for 14 days or 12 days, whatever, before you got your $1,500 deposit. I want to remind folks that's where we come from, because that's where I came from. There wasn't instant gratification. And that, I think that's one of the biggest things we forget here. Like, because, oh, I wrote a policy and I got like $2,000 yesterday. Right. And so when you run 8 days or 10 days, Steve, of man, I sat with folks, I did this and I did this, and I haven't had a deposit. I'm like, oh my, this is going where it's the end of the world. Like, no, it's just the way commissions work, right? And it's just the way your business operates, because it's absolutely normal. So one of the things I want to focus on at first right now is raise of hand, who has written a policy? Who has written a policy and gotten approved? Let me see a raise of hands. There. All right. I like it. Okay. Spoiler alert, you know what to do. You already know how to deposit $20,000 in your bank account. What you got to fall in love with is you and what it takes for you to hit those numbers, right? Because for me, it takes a lot. Again, I love that, lots of folks want to celebrate me, but I suck at this. Like, I can literally look at my engage, and my engage is just my tracker sheet, right? How much have I dialed? Who shows up to my appointments? How many sits I have? How many people tell me no? How many people tell me yes? How many apps I submit? It's insane. Almost everyone in our organization that's on there have better numbers percentage wise than me. And what that means is literally everyone's better than me. And I want y'all to understand that concept, because all of y'all that have written an application more than likely are better than me. The decision that I have just made is I'm not going to fail. That's the only decision I have made. And that's the decision you have to make today. right? This is a production call. And look, I love it, but this is doctor money. This is past an average doctor makes 150 grand, in case y'all don't know that. Go Google that. An average doctor makes 150 grand a year after 8 years of college. So here's my question, because these are little things that ponder in my head, right? So if it takes a doctor 8 years of college or more, right, depending on what they're doing, to go make 100K, how many of y'all are on our Thursday production call? Because there's about 60 of y'all today, right? Y'all, it looks like usually the same faces, right? How many of y'all have listened to a SoundCloud or anything else outside of today? How many? Type that in the chat. How many have you listened to? And the reason I bring this up is, why would you think, right, 6 hours, 10 hours, 1 hour a week would make you $200,000 a year if it takes a doctor 8 years of studying and perfecting their craft? And that's what you have to. Jordan said this so well one time. She said, you still got to pay tuition, but it's in time. It's in practice, right? So we don't have to pay $1 tuition to a college, but you do got to pay tuition in time. You got to go listen to SoundCloud audios. You got to ask for help, massive action, constant correction. Your upline is the greatest resource, right? Working in the Zoom room. Again, I challenged everyone about 2 weeks ago, and there was like 80 of us on the call. And I said, hey, if y'all are really serious about making 20 grand or whatever we were saying on that call, y'all would all be in the workroom, because that directly correlates of how much income. And I forgot who was in there, and we're like, hey, you just said that, and there's only 20 people. I just want to remind all of y'all, right? Because a whole bunch of y'all raised your hand today and said, I want to make 20 grand in 30 days. And I just want to remember, when I jump into the Zoom room, if you're in there, and then you wonder why you don't make that kind of income, right? There's no magic in it. We're just grinding it out to do whatever it takes for us. And so when I say you know what to do, here's the beauty of it. You need to go look at your trackers and your numbers. And here's the first thing. Write this down on a piece of paper. You don't got to raise your hand. Do you even have a tracker of your numbers? Do you have your dials, right? And it's 3 things you need to know. The main ones. How many hit times you hit send, how many dials, how many people you talk to, and then how many you sat with. I'm sorry, no. How many you talked to, how many you booked, right? So dials, contacts, and books, right? Those are the 3 things you need. You have to have those numbers. You can't learn your numbers if you don't have your numbers. Because if you ever call any one of your, and I hope all uplines are like this, because Chris taught me this so well. If you ever call me and you're like, yeah, it's because a whole bunch of people told me no, like almost everyone, like, no, I don't go off of a whole lot, everyone, some folks, a bunch, like, no, it's 87, 32, 15. Like, you need to have exactly, this is a real business. This isn't like, I kind of want to deposit 20 grand next month, Amber, because guess what? Kind of could be you deposit maybe 3 grand.
That used to annoy me when you would tell me, I don't know what a lot is. I'm like, ugh.
Right? You call me, she'd be like, a lot of people are telling me no, Joe. I'm like, well, what's a lot? It's the crazy part. When you look at the number, it's never a lot. It just feels like a lot, right? Because those are the ones that impact you mentally. Yeah, it's 3 or 4. All my leads are telling me no. I'm like, well, you've only talked to 10. You only have 10 contacts. And so, like, you booked 2 of them, and that means 7 people told you no, right? Like, you have to know your numbers, because the magic is in knowing your numbers. Because after you have like 2 or 3 weeks of data, I can literally tell you what it takes for you to deposit 20 grand. And I want y'all to understand that concept. Once you have 2 to 3 weeks of numbers, of accurate numbers, you can literally multiply and get to 20K in deposits. So every single one of you, when I say the term, you know what to do, it's another term my agents hate to hear from me, is you know what to do. You're calling me and you're complaining about what you didn't do to get the results you thought you wanted. And the reason I say thought, because trying, Miss Amber is the best one at this, trying is not a business plan. Well, I'm going to try to have 6 or 8 appointments for tomorrow. Well, I'm going to try. Let me tell you, my boss in the restaurant business instilled, he goes, "Do you ever tell me try again?" He goes, I'm going to have to get rid of you. And I'm like, "What do you mean?" He goes, "Well, this is a real business, Joe. We're a $5 million store, and try is not a business concept." And if y'all forget, you are an actual business. It may not feel like it because it's just maybe a business of one, but you are literally $100,000 to $200,000 business in sales. That's what y'all really are, right? And if you have a team, you're more than likely $1 million a year in revenue. Do you know how many businesses never hit those kind of numbers? And you are. You know how many businesses never hit my car wash? My car wash, one of our best years, we were $183,000 in sales, Amber. To do $183,000 in sales, Kevin, it was like having 7 car wash guys, a manager. My mom and dad would run it. I would come do the books. A new agent can come in here and do that in about 7 months by themselves. And I want y'all to grasp that concept of how big we really are. We can make it. This is the reason I fell in love with Symmetry. This is big money. This is big money really fast if you really put your head down.
And
right. So when I go
going off of that too, the word try, and excuse my language, but that just means you're going to half-ass it. You're not going to put all your effort in. You're either going to do it or you're not.
We had to pay our rent, right, at the car wash. And here, how many of y'all have bills to pay no matter what by the end of the month? Right. So you're still a business, right? You got to have income. The difference was at the car wash, James, if we weren't getting cars in, what were we doing? We were literally standing on the corner with a sign saying $10 a car wash. Like, come on, like, I just need somebody to come in. Like, we had to go do whatever it took. We had to go
skin
walk.
flex a little bit.
I put James out there without a shirt holding the sign, Josh. Like, we had to go to the laundromats, the Burger King, the Denny's next door, and we're like, hey, we would go up to all the servers and the manager, and we're like, hey, do you want us to wash your car? You know, we'll pick it up, drop it off. Like, we had to do whatever it takes. We had to pay the bill. And here was the crazy part. We knew what to do. And all of y'all know what to do. As long as you're tracking your numbers, you know literally what it takes to deposit 20K. You may not like that number, but that's what it takes. And it takes a lot sometimes, right? Here's the cool part. It gets easier. I promise you it gets easier because as you do whatever it takes, you just find out a whole bunch of lessons and tricks and you find what works for you. And so one of the biggest blockages that we have in this kind of income, I want to make sure we talk about the really good people, right? Because again, I laugh, right? I tell everybody this and everyone's like, shut up, Joe, you can't say that I suck. I truly suck. Okay. I look at my numbers and like the effort that I have to do to get some of the results some other folks do, it blows my mind. Right. But hey, here's the cool part. I'm willing to do whatever it takes for me to win. Right. And so I want y'all to know these numbers, right? Because I've been here 6.5 years. Okay. Y'all have seen David and Danelle do a 50K month, right? And she was only dialing 200, maybe 250 a week, if that, on 40 CI leads. Not funny, James. I have 40 CI leads, but it takes me thousands of dials a week to do the same. In fact, I missed their number. I think I got like 44,000. I was 6,000 short of being able to beat them. Let me tell you, I did everything it took to beat them, and I couldn't. In case y'all didn't see my post, I was running for elite producer. Okay, elite producer is you got to issue 30,000. So you got to write about 40,000 a month so you can issue about 30 grand. I did it in January. This is the 4th attempt in my career here at Symmetry to do it. And again, in February, I failed. But through failing, I still deposited $50,000 in my bank account. How many of y'all wouldn't fail? Right? We get so stuck on, I'm not going to hit my goal, that we paralyze ourselves. right? You just got to understand whatever it takes. Who cares? To wake up tomorrow, you failed yesterday. It's absolutely okay. The beauty of this industry is you can today, you're one appointment away from thousands in deposits. You're one appointment away from making the week. Like I haven't written a single policy all week, and I bet you today or tomorrow will be like, boom, 3, 4, 5 grand, and it's like, whew, saved my week because you're only one appointment away. It just takes whatever it takes. This week for me, it's taken. I had 15 appointments booked on Monday, 11 appointments booked on Tuesday, 11 appointments booked on Wednesday, and I still haven't written an app. Crazy numbers, Raymond, right? And some of y'all are like, man, I can't get my 5K week. And you have 3 appointments scheduled for Monday, and you had 2 on Tuesday, and maybe 4 on Wednesday. Just think of what it takes. Like the only reason you fail is because you allowed yourself to fail. And that's the hard pill to swallow. Because there is absolutely no failing at Symmetry. Zero. I have never had anyone call me and be like, man, I dialed like until I couldn't anymore, Joe. And I booked all these appointments. And dude, I don't have any money. I'm failing. Never happened. 7 years. Everyone that decides to do whatever it takes, they're like, holy cow. I get text messages like Nicole, and she's like, holy cow, I got $16,000 deposited in my bank account. I'm like, shut up. That's insane.
28 days.
28 days. Look at that. You still made, hey, and you know, you with back end pay, Nicole, you made $20,000.
Thank you. Thank you. I needed to hear that.
Right? Like aim so high that even when you fail, it's crushing it. Right? And that's the thing about Symmetry. You cannot pick a number that you know you can hit, because that's almost guaranteeing failure. And I want everyone to write this number down. And guess what? Y'all know what to do, because y'all heard these numbers before. What are you supposed to do today in activity for tomorrow? Somebody put that in the chat so y'all can all write it down. 206. That's right. 200 dials or book 6 appointments. Everybody knows what to do. James laughs. Everyone knows what to do. Okay. That's bare minimum is what y'all got to remember. That is bare minimum. When somebody calls me and they're like, Joe, I finally did it, right? I dialed 250 dials, or I dialed 280, or I dialed 205, and I'm like, oh, okay. So you just did what you were supposed to do. And I don't mean that mean. I'm just like, so we're in day 5 of the week, and one day out of the 5 days you did what you were supposed to do, and you're upset that you didn't get the results that you wanted. I just got to fall in love with that concept. And where I want to remind everyone is the 6 appointments for tomorrow, because that's the important one. This is not Joe stressing anyone out, saying like, oh my God, I got to do this and I got to do that. No, I'm making y'all fall in love with the numbers, because you can't run away from these 6 appointments. Okay. And I love to do it with my hand because it makes more sense for everybody. 6 appointments. You usually have a 40 to 30% show rate. Okay. 50% is 3, a little bit less. That means you maybe sit with 2 appointments. If you have 6 booked appointments today, you maybe sit with 2. I'm going to give you the benefit of the doubt that you got your 2. We close at a 50% rate. That means if you got 2, you maybe get 1. But there's that big word, maybe, because then you have to factor in the numbers. It takes 4 to 6 sits. So everybody write that down. It takes 4 to 6 sits of actually running a good appointment to get an application. That means you have to do that 4 times. So if you only get 6 appointments tomorrow for 4 days in a row, maybe you have an application this week. I got to fall in love with the numbers. The numbers are the numbers. Because look, they're not on my side this week. I've sat with 7 and I haven't gotten an app. Because it's a law of large numbers. You got to get 6 weeks of data, and it always rounds up. Always. And it's always better than the numbers that we tell y'all. That's what I love about Symmetry. So y'all just got to figure, y'all got to fall in love with that. 6 appointments for tomorrow. Maybe you have an app. Maybe. Listen, I can't pay bills off of maybe. I can't. I can't pay bills off of maybe. That's not a, it's not a business concept. But yet everyone, right? For a lot of us, like Brandon Ellenson said, everyone can, most won't. Most rely on, I got three, maybe that's the one. Hey, good luck, right? We're here to help you. We're going to help you prep and we're going to do all this stuff. And you're going to prep like a whole hour before. And because you got 2 appointments for today and you're super excited and we helped you and we told you to go back to dial and book more, but you're like, no, 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 this is the one, man. They sounded really good. And then you wait for them and then guess what? They don't show up. Or the next one shows up and it's like, hey, Haddon, you know what? Oh, me and my wife looked at this. Yeah, we're not interested. And you're like, whoa, right? The numbers are the numbers. And understanding that for me was freedom, right? Because again, this was freedom. And then for me, I'm going to share my screen. This activity was freedom for me. That's my tracker and activity for January. So many people, Kevin, are like, holy crap, dude, you wrote 44 grand and you issued 40,000. Like you're in, I'm like, no, I suck. Look at my sit rate. It's at 40%, right? Look at my dials, 6,884 dials to do that. Now, here's the really cool part because I know my numbers. This is like a Dylan Crane that writes like 100 grand a month. Right, Kevin? That's insane. He started writing 100 grand a month 3. That is nuts. The cool part is I can do that, and I don't have to be as good as Dylan Crane. If I wrote 44 grand, I just simply got to look. I don't like the number, but according to my skill level, it takes me 13,000 dials to go write 90,000. Don't laugh, James. I suck, dude. But the numbers are the numbers. They don't lie. This is why you got to have your trackers, right? Literally, I know what to do. I cannot sit here and call Dylan Crane and be like, man, how did you write 100K and what leads are you using and what's your schedule like? Because it doesn't matter what the rock is cooking, right? Is that how it goes somewhere? It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. What matters is my skill level, right? It's the whole concept of, hey, I want to listen to Joe dial, or I want to listen to Amber. It doesn't matter. You can listen to her all you want. What matters is how you dial. You're the one that's got to unmute in the Zoom room and dial because her skill level is not your skill level. And the really cool part is most of y'all brand new are way better than us. You just don't give yourself the opportunity to show yourself that. Right? You have to look at your numbers. For me, I can go do a $90,000 Dylan Crane. I can. It's proven mathematically. I know exactly what to do. I just got to double my leads and I got to double my activity. For me, it will make me write that number. You just got to know your number, right? Look at your numbers for last month and you're like, man, I need to deposit 20K. So how do I deposit 20K? Just get your numbers and multiply them based on your commission level. And it's literally that simple. We just don't like some of those numbers sometimes, right? You're like, oh man. And then here's the thing. I remember when I came to Symmetry, one of the biggest things or concepts that I had in my head, because I had failed a whole bunch in my other businesses and right, being restrained in the corporate world. The biggest thing is we weren't allowing ourselves to dream big, right? Like when was the last time you said, and I want you to think about this, because for me, it was in high school. Like, man, if I get that job that makes me a millionaire, right? Or that pays me like a couple of $100,000, right? Like if I can get that job that lets me work from home or sit, for me, I was working in the restaurant and Josh, every Saturday or Friday, I saw the same people at the bar. And then their family would show up and they'd sit like 12 people and it was like $1,000 tab. And I'm like, what do they do to work? Like, I can't afford that. And I'm the one running this thing. But I remember slightly thinking like, man, if I can just land that dream job. So today I want to give y'all permission to allow yourselves to know you have found that dream job. Y'all have found the dream job. There is uncapped. Nobody controls. I don't care who your upline. I'm the worst person to call and say, hey, it's because of my upline that I can't find success. I'm like, what are you talking about? The reason I fell in love with Symmetry is it doesn't matter what the rock is cooking, right? Who your upline is. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Your success is not, and if you're blaming them, again, that's a blockage in your head. Oh, well, Joe doesn't help me, or Amber can't do this, or I came and Jason brought me right, from the beginning. He's brand new too, and he doesn't write 20 grand, and that's why I can't write 20 grand. Like, what are you talking about? We all have access. This is your own business. We all have access to the exact same HQ. We all have access to the exact same calls. We all have access. In fact, I love it when everyone thinks like, oh, the agency owners had that data and it rolled out before to them. Like, no, we literally get on a Wednesday call, and it's like, hey, we're going to talk about this in the national call. I'm like, okay, we literally know the same day if something new comes out. Because that's the beauty of Symmetry. Nobody is holding you back to make this kind of income. It's your activity based on your skill level, and you just got to fall in love with it. Look, Val Zarn was my running buddy. Val Zarn was my running buddy when I started in this industry. I hated him. He would book 6 to maybe 8 appointments and sit with like 4 and write 10K. And it took me booking like 20, 30 appointments, sitting with like 15 or 10 or 12 to maybe write 8 or 9. That's talent. But what was a really cool part is talent didn't have to matter. Because here it's whatever it takes for you, and you can go absolutely crush it. So again, write this phrase down. You know what to do, because you do. And you need to leave it like that. Don't put I, because you need to look in the mirror and say, you know what to do to deposit $20,000 in 30 days. Because you absolutely do. Based on your numbers, you can literally just multiply it and have that. Nicole, everyone's been asking me like, what did you tell Nicole? What is she doing now? What is there something different that you're doing, Nicole? Is there like some magic? What was the secret?
I didn't even put in the dials I was supposed to. So I'm not upset that I barely, which I didn't with back end pay, I didn't miss my goal. So the numbers are the numbers. I have a 40 CI lead and I worked 6 days a week and I did what it took. I set a time limit that this was priority right now, and I did it.
And it's whatever
That's
it
it.
takes. It's whatever it takes. Again, mom of 8, 2 sets of twins. She homeschools. She has to cook, pick them up, drop them off. Like, what are we talking about here? Right? When somebody calls me, it's like, man, it's because I have the production call today, Joe. And then yesterday was the national call, right? Like, first of all, there's maybe 6.5 hours a week in calls. So, hey, and guess what? If you don't want to be on it, don't be on it, but good luck, right? Again, that's part of the formula. But it's 6.8, 6.5 hours, right? And so I love numbers. So if you dial, because I watch all of y'all post on bad. If you dial 200 dials, I want you to grab 200 in your calculator on your phone and divide that by 35. And somebody put in the chat what that number is. So 200 divided by 35. We're going to win 5 hours. So if you did bare minimum, you maybe worked 5 hours, maybe 6 today. You can't be upset of not even a full-time job. Because here's the thing. If you say you're full-time, if you don't hit full-time hours, you would get fired anywhere else. Right? Like you can't underperform and still have a job. Right? You can't like if I was a dishwasher or if I was the general manager at the restaurant, I couldn't leave at 9 o'clock when everybody was still, hey, I'm done for the day. Y'all close the restaurant. Right? You don't get paid. You get in trouble and you get fired. Well, it's the same thing here. You just don't get paid. The nice part is you're your own boss, so you probably just won't fire yourself because you like yourself. But that's the reality, right? Like you have to understand you're the only one in control of these numbers. And so the next one is hours work that you invest in your business. So show of hands, what's been in your last job or the last 2, what's the most hours, or actually type it in the chat, what's the most hours you worked a week, right? On average, right? Like, hey, was you putting in 60 hours? Look at that, 90 hours. It's insane. That's what I used to put, 80 hours. 75 hours. Okay. I'm going to show y'all some crazy numbers again. I'm going to share my tracker. I make this bigger. Let's see. Ah. Everybody see this number right here? IPAs, hours worked. The week I worked 60 hours, 63 hours. And I used to do that every single week, no matter what, if not way more at the restaurant business. But the week I worked 63 hours, I wrote $19,000. That means I made $10,000 that week. I had a starting contract because I actually made 20. The numbers are the numbers. If you have your trackers, y'all need to know what your IPAs. You just divide your dials by $35 an hour, and that's what tells you how many hours you've worked. You get 1 hour for your appointment. The problem is most of the time when we don't hit our goal is we just work like 26 hours, right? Because most of us don't dial 200 dials in a day, right? We didn't sit with a family today because all three of the appointments we had today, Josh and O showed us, right? So we didn't get a sit, but I dialed 180 dials. So I worked 4.5 hours. How are we supposed to be upset with our results, right? Like we didn't give it our all. So where I go with this is if you were giving that other company everything you had, why are you not giving the Creasman agency, right? The Walder agency, the Buchanan agency, the church agency, absolutely everything you have? One of the biggest blockages, because before we have been trained everywhere else we worked, that it did in Matt Cassidy. You gave me a crazy story. Y'all worked your butts off for these other people and these other companies, and y'all did absolutely everything. And you never got what you wanted. Why are we not giving this our everything? Because I promise you, the day you decide to give everything, that's all Nicole did. That's literally all she did, right? Nothing changed in dials, nothing. She just said, that's it. I'm going to do this, and I'm giving the Creasman agency everything I have. Because it's just whatever it takes for you. A lot of times it's a lot less than you actually think, but it's a lot harder than you think too, right? Because everything's going to get in the way. So here, let me remind you of my story. I got 2 baby mamas. I got to drop off. 2 of my kids are with one, 2 of my kids are with the other. I have to figure out different schedules, different travels. Some pick them up, some drop them off. I got to get in the middle because they don't like each other, right? I got a business to run. I'm on more calls than just about everyone. I host most calls. I do more agent calls, and we're still doing the activity that we can do. I promise you. Nicole is the greatest story. Mother of 8, homeschooling 2 babies. Like her babies are little. Like there's no excuse. What are we talking about? Whatever it takes. That's why I love Ashley Richards' story. She's homeschools her 2 kids. It's insane. And she wrote $100,000 a month for 3 months in a row, broke the Symmetry record because we are tied to.
And she traveled.
And she traveled. She went to Alaska like 3 times. I'm super jealous. I want to go to Alaska. Right? Like y'all have to understand it's in your head. You know what to do. You just have to get out of your own head and do whatever it takes for you. And it's different for everyone. That's why I can't give you a number and say, hey, Leslie, so for you, it's going to take this and this, and let's move this around on your schedule and let's do this. And Cassidy, for you, I don't know. That's the one thing we don't know. But you know what to do. You know exactly what to do whatever it takes for you to absolutely deposit $20,000 into your bank account. And it's not the lead. It's not the how old it was that you got cut off of leads, that you're back on bonus leads, look, I want everyone to understand this concept. This is why I love this. Okay. I love CI leads. I don't want to touch any other leads. I hate all the other ones. I hate digital leads. I don't like MIA leads. I love CI leads, and I can find massive success in it. But you talk to a Jeffrey Miller and he's like, dude, I wouldn't touch a CI lead if you gave it to me. I'm an MIA lead. I'm going to find massive success in those leads. Then you have, right? You have a Rodney, a, Elijah, a Xander. Like, dude, I'm crushing it with digital leads. right? And then you have other folks like a LaTanya Jackson that writes 400,000 a year off of 50-cent leads. Guess what? It ain't the leads. It's whatever it takes for you. It is not the leads. A lead is a phone number. And when you dial it and they say, yes, I'll see you tomorrow, level playing field. It doesn't matter where it came from. It doesn't matter if it was a warm market. It doesn't matter anything. A lead is a lead. It's a phone number that you called and booked an appointment. Once you have your 6 for tomorrow, it's a level playing field because you got to fall in love with the numbers. So it doesn't matter what kind of leads you're taking. Doesn't the B ones, the CICs and D, it does not get that out of your head. It's your own excuse in your head, I promise you. Because LaTanya, in fact, in the Cook hierarchy, we had 2 years in a row, some guy write $500,000 off of 50-cent leads. And here's the crazy part, James. You know what I really upset? He didn't, I still dialed double. He maybe was dialing $1,200 a week. And he was writing 50K weeks. But I can't get stuck on what Xander does, on what that guy did, on what James does, on what Tickle does, on what Cody, not even with Nicole. I get so jealous looking at Nicole's numbers, right? But I can't, because it doesn't matter. It only matters of what it takes for me. And that's the really cool part is that's why I can I can say it so with so much enthusiasm and confidence and tell y'all you can, Amy, you can deposit $20,000 in April. 100% I know you can. You just got to go do whatever it takes for you. Right. And every day you don't have 6 appointments. That's a choice you made. Every day you don't dial till 12 or 1 in the afternoon because you were doing this and that and call the carrier. That's a choice you made. Right. Well, I had to, right. I got sick and, you know, I felt bad and I had to go get medicine. That's a choice you made, right? You own your own business. That's the beauty. And that's the bad part. Nobody tells you you have to go to work today. But that's what's insane. That's what I absolutely, Terry, you can deposit $20,000 next month. You can deposit it starting tomorrow. You just got to make sure you have 6+ appointments for tomorrow and do whatever it takes today for you to get that. Right? You can go out and reach warm market. You can go out and get more leads today. You can go get 50-cent leads. You can start a standing lead order. You can go hold a sign and say, hey, I sell life insurance. Guess what? There are no rules to do whatever it takes for you to win here.
And 6 is just the minimum. I mean, if you want to beat the odds on those, like create your own luck, like you create your own luck here, like do 10, 12. If you know it's a 50%, right? Hey, do 20, overlap them. I don't care. Like that way you have 6, you can sit with all your weekly appointments in one day if you want.
Yeah. And here's the thing. I wish we had a sit problem. I had 15 on Monday and everybody's like, oh my God, how do you sit with all? I'm like, no, 5 of them showed up. I wish 15. Oh my God, I would have written like 10 grand already on Monday. They don't show up. But guess what? It's part of the process. And I know my numbers and I know what I have to do. And as long as I'm consistent every single week, we're going to make that kind of income. Listen to that. As long as I know what I have to do and I'm consistent with that every single week, I will make that kind of income. You are negotiating your income every time you don't hit your results. That's the hard part in this. In production, you're the boss. And you have to remember you have 2 roles. Role 1 is book as many appointments as you can, right? Because you need them. But the day you didn't do what you were supposed to do, then it's got to flip the switch, right? Because my first position is the dialer, Joe, and the running of appointments. My second position is boss Joe. And boss Joe cannot let Joe not have 6, 8, 10, 15, because for me, it takes way more than 6, right? Like, I hope y'all know. That's why it's not by choice. If I can only have 6 appointments and write with some of these folks, right, I'd be way more money in our bank account. But I can't, and I have to fall in love with that. But boss Joe does not allow me to not have my appointments for tomorrow. Because if I was in the restaurant, my dishwasher said, hey, I'm done. I'm like, no, you're not. Look at all this stuff you got. Yeah, guess what? Go back into the dish pit. You need to go finish. No, well, it's because my schedule said 7 today. I'm like, yeah, I'm sorry. Get back in there. Well, that's going to take like another 2 hours because people came in late and the kitchen's behind. I'm like, I don't care. You have to finish your job. And that's what you have to be able to tell yourself. That's the hard part. You have to say, I don't care. How many of y'all, when you had your other job, said, hey, my kid's sick and is it okay if I take the day off? And you were told no? I did. How many of y'all were like, hey, it's my friend's wedding on Friday and blah, blah, blah. Is it okay if can I put in for this day? And they're like, yeah, somebody else already got that day. No. Why are we so lenient with our own business? Because trust me, your boss wasn't just being a bad person. They just had a business to run. And that's what you have. You have a business to run. Now, here's the beauty. You get the time that you really need. You can take that time off. Like, hey, my kid's sick, so I do need to run to okay, but right now it's morning time and I got to get my morning dials in. And as soon as I do that, I can go get medicine for my kid. Right? Or, hey, I need to do that. You have the power of your schedule. That is work-life balance. And when you truly grasp that, that's what Nicole has done. Because Nicole has texted me throughout the month, and Nicole, right? She was like, "Man, I don't know. I feel like I'm abandoning my kid." I'm like, "What are you talking about? Like, you're crushing it." I'm like, "And when you worked somewhere else, well," she goes, "Yeah, that's true." I'm like, "Okay, so what are you talking about? Like, it's just because we know we can." That bothers us. We know we can take off, and I don't have to go and dial because Boss Joe is not going to get mad at me. That's what stays in your head and upset. Like, man, I could have, but I shouldn't, right? Because boss is the one that says, nope, you can't do that. You got to stay on your job and work.
I love that because boss Amber is very mean to employee Amber.
You have to be. You have to get upset with here. Let me give y'all permission to get upset with yourself because you're going to fail, right? There's on average 30 days in a month. You're going to fail about 25 of those days. And that you need to get upset. And tomorrow you need to reset and be like, okay, I'm not going to do what I did yesterday and I'm going to do more. And as long as you do that and allow yourself to fail, right? We just get so stuck in like, man, last week was crappy. And yesterday I got caught up and I got in my own head and I didn't dial. I only did 60 dials yesterday. Who cares? The beauty part again is you're the boss and you're not going to fire yourself. Right? So you get to say, hey, Haddon, it's all right. Tomorrow, I just want you to do double. And just go do double. Then you're back where you need to be. Right? Like you have that ability. And for me, that's freedom. Right? Like I hope what you get out of this call are two things. One, you know more than any other insurance agent at these points, right? Because you know how to write a policy, you know how to submit it, you know how to get somebody covered. So you know what to do. You know the numbers that you put up. You know what you've written with those numbers, how much you've invested in your leads. So you know how to deposit 20 grand. You know what to do. You just got to decide, I want 20 grand. And here's the crazy part when I want all of y'all to fall in love with. You're probably not. But let me tell you, if you go deposit 10 grand, 12 grand, 15 grand, 17 grand, are you really going to be upset? I wouldn't. Right? You just have to allow yourself to fail and be okay with it, get upset, channel that energy to go do more the next day. Like, you know how many times Nicole, I don't even know how Nicole was up at these hours. I'm like, Nicole, is it like 1 a.m. your time? She's like, well, I didn't hit my 200, Joe, and I only got 4. And I'm like, well, it sounds like you need to do more tomorrow. She's like, I know. Okay, I'm going to do it.
One of the best things, Joe, is still this month I learned stuff about my appointments. Like there's things that I learned this month by pushing so hard that I'll never forget because of the way that I learned them. And it's been that way for me from the beginning. It's just when I had to do it, it was like, well, I guess I'm just going to have to make all these mistakes and get there as fast as I can. And I'm so glad I did.
That's a great point, right? Because when y'all start to ramp it up, everyone feels like you're failing because you're doing more and you're just getting all your no's and your mistakes out of the way. So it feels like failing like no tomorrow. Like she would call me and she's like, Joe, I haven't written in like 4 or 5 days. Like this is going on. I'm keep getting think about it. And I'm like, Nicole, because I told her this months ago. I'm like, hey, look, the day you decide to go be a top producer, you're gonna call me because every top producer calls me in that path and journey, and they're like, I suck. I'm like, no, you just got more no's. I'm like, that's the welcome to Elijah world, to my world. I just get a whole bunch more no's, and I just can't be emotional about it. I just got to fall in love with my numbers and move on to the next. And then literally the next day, Nicole texts me, oh, I just wrote 4,500. Oh, I just had a 10K day. I'm like, because you just got to be consistent and it comes. You cannot run away from Symmetry numbers. And I hope that allows y'all to give yourself permission to go do whatever it takes. Allow yourself, you all can deposit $20,000. 100%. I don't care what leads you're on. You just got to go do whatever it takes for you. It could be a lot of dials. It could be a little dials. But look, if you're full time and you have really big goals, nowhere in our training did it say you only have to work or you can only work 20, 30, 40, 50 hours. Nobody said that. I can guarantee you, right? We said you can have work-life balance. We said you got to get out of balance before you get in balance. We said you're going to have a 6-week learning curve. And the only way you have a 6-week learning curve is if you're consistent for 6 weeks. Because every time you stop, you reset that 6 weeks. So your 6 weeks could be a year long. And that's what happens normally because you were not consistent for 6 weeks. You were consistent for 2 or 3, and then you reset it again. And they're like, no, okay, this is okay. I'm going to stay focused this time. I'm not going to turn off my leads. I'm going to do it. And then week 4, you're like, no, right? And then you just reset that clock again. So your 6-week learning curve could become 6 months, a year, 2 years. I've seen it happen, right? Like I love everyone's like, Nate crushed it. I'm like, yeah, Nate took about a year and a half to get out of his own head and say, hey, I'm going to figure this out, whatever it takes. That's the only decision. And then one of the biggest things is y'all have to tell yourselves this, and I mean this with so much love, and everyone hates it when I say that, right? But maybe you should consider quitting too. Because if you're not willing to do whatever it takes, the last thing we want you to do is go broke here or not make money for 6 months. That's the last thing we want you to do. We did not promise you success, right, through failure. No, we just said, right, like, hey, you got to do whatever it takes and you can absolutely skyrocket. But if you're not willing to do whatever it takes for you, you probably want to reconsider this because no one's in control. I don't write you your checks, right? And because I don't write you a check, that means it's all on you. That for me was freedom because no one had control of me. So I was like, you telling me I could just go sit with more people and make 20 grand a month? Let me tell you, when that concept really hit home, I have never deposited less than $20,000 in my bank account. Never here at Symmetry. But it's hard, but it's 100% worth it because what we've been able to, 20,000, y'all hear what I'm saying? $20,000. Nicole, it doesn't $16,000 feel great?
It really does. My husband hasn't worked since before Christmas.
It's insane. What we get to
Other
do
than
here is
pastoring and
insane.
helping with kids.
We get to do something that's insane. You just got to go do whatever it takes. So I hope today, right? Listen, fall in love with the numbers we gave you. 206. Those are bare minimum. Okay, that means maybe you have an opportunity. If you want to go do extraordinary results, you got to go do extraordinary activity. Whatever it takes for you, I don't know what it is. The cool part is for some of y'all, maybe it's 80 dials. For a lot of y'all, it's probably going to be 300-400 dials in a day. And if you divide it by 35, or if you're on a dialer divided by 50, it's not even an 8-hour shift. Okay, get that out of your head. And no, if you're having to dial that much, you're probably not sitting with appointments. So it's not like you even worked an 8-hour shift, right? You just need to dial for more appointments. Like that's just the reality. The trackers tell us that, right? And just fall in love with it. Because for me, it was freedom. And I hope today y'all really understand you are free to do whatever you want, to make whatever you want. And you are the only person in my favorite phrase, you know exactly what to do. So I hope y'all go do it and you go crush it and hit all your goals. So thanks for hopping on.